The term consideration typically signifies careful thought, giving a hand to others. Nevertheless, the novel The Dinner shows an unusual example of consideration leading to one's greed to fulfill his living. Prior to discussing the actual novel, I want to mention the author, Herman Koch. He's a Dutch writer and actor. His novel The Dinner has been translated into 21 different languages since 2009. The interesting part is that he co-created a TV series called GEC. He was one of the top cast in the show, and this TV series portrays abnormal characters in a satirical and absurd way, being very distant from his literary works. Moving back to his novels, he mostly wrote thriller types of long novels. Today, I'm going to review the novel The Dinner, divided into 6 parts, following how the author parted them. The first section is aperitif. It refers to an alcoholic drink taken before a meal to stimulate the appetite. While the readers are still discovering their characters, Paul and Claire, it is possible to find out how the dinner appointment is not a casual gathering, which is weird because Paul and his wife Claire are getting ready to meet Paul's brother, Sergei, and his partner, Babette. Before leaving the house, the narrator Paul goes into his son Mihail's bedroom and watches a video from his son's cell phone. This is the part where the storyline starts. In other words, their family could have been a normal, ideal type of household if Paul hadn't decided to pick up his son's cell phone. The story takes place in Amsterdam, where two couples meet at a fancy restaurant to have dinner. Sergei Lohman, Paul's brother, is a successful political figure running for the prime minister. All the employees of the restaurant try to impress him by providing extra helpful customer service. Moreover, Sergei attempts to build a desirable public conception for his upcoming election. Throughout the appetizer period, Paul interrupts the conversation and keeps a pessimistic opinion towards his brother, such as considering him as a bird, stupid enough not to recognize an obstacle right in front of itself. When Paul returns to the table after excusing himself to go to the bathroom, he finds out that Babette and Sergei had a fight. Babette excuses herself, and Claire follows her to comfort her, leaving only Sergei and Paul at the table. Sergei makes an effort to have a discussion about their kid's problem, but Paul avoids it again. The main course is served to the table, meanwhile Babette and Claire are still outside. Sergei shows strong impatience by eating his dish before his company returns to the table, which shows his restless personality. Paul also leaves the table and gets outside to look for his wife. As he gets outside, he realizes that he brought his son's cell phone accidentally, and he starts to go through it. As Paul is investigating his son's phone, Mihail calls from home to ask why his father has his cell phone. Mihail decides to come to the restaurant to get his cell phone back. By going through his son's cell phone, Paul completely perceives what his son did with Rick and Beryl, his brother's children. In other words, he finally discerns how his only child murdered a homeless by his own hands and confesses that he saw all of his videos his son had. Paul also gets to know that Beryl, Sergei's adopted son, is threatening his son by posting videos filmed during the crime on YouTube. In this chapter, the 4 characters start to profoundly discuss how they should handle the situation. On account of his greed, I suppose Sergei would like to conceal his son's crime. But surprisingly, he decided to give up his candidacy for prime minister, which was not like his wife's opinion. We can see how Sergei's consideration turned into a discord in the family. He may thought giving up his candidacy and making Rick commit his crime could help Rick live his life peacefully, since his son was having a hard time hiding his crime from others. Yet, his other family members, especially Claire and Babette, wanted him to continue his candidacy. They assumed it was not a big deal, especially because the victim was obstructing the entrance of an ATM. What's more, Claire pretends to have a phone call with his son after asking for the time so that Babette would believe Mihail stayed home at that time. In order to stop him from holding a press conference the next day, Claire maims Sergei with a wine glass. This part felt ironic considering that they were committing a crime to cover one. While Claire is being arrested, Paul immediately gets home as he sees Claire's sign telling him to head home. While Paul is recollecting memories at home, Michal arrives at home. He has a wound on his left hand, having bloodstains all over his body. He also explains that the YouTube video is deleted. As Paul and Michal hug each other, the story ends. Their relationship made me think about how families resemble each other. Whether you admire your parents or not, being similar to them is a natural result. Like Paul and Michal both being left-handed, resembling your parents may result physically. In the novel, Paul had an issue where he could not handle anger properly. When he had a conversation with his son's headmister, he eventually used harsh violence instead of staying calm. Growing up watching his father's violence, Michal could have pledged himself not to be like him. However, not as Paul expected, Michal showed violence toward the homeless, and we can also suppose he killed Beao at the end of the story. This genuinely shows how we are similar to our parents, even if we don't admit it. It also shows how parents should be careful about all the decisions they make, since parents are the mirror of their children. This novel gives us a chance to think about what real love parents can give means. Paul consistently showed anger towards people if he felt like they were trying to interrupt his family relationship, even when they were trying to help him. When Claire was in the hospital for her surgery, Babette and Sergei offered to let Michal stay with them temporarily. Paul took this offering obnoxiously, for he didn't want his family to fall apart. As a result, Paul beat Sergei with a boiling hot pan. Even though we know Paul attacked his brother so as to maintain his happy family, it is quite hard to be praised as pure love. As I read the book, it was possible for me to reconsider the term family. It would be a great idea to read this novel if you have conflicts with your family members. Thank you for watching my very first video essay. I hope you enjoyed it.